even asked me myself to write his opening speech to welcome you. So I've abducted him for a while and make sure that he knows you well. Okay. Because last time you also didn't meet him, right?
No, the last time I came, he was away. Yeah, it's nice to see him.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Mondastri. Yeah.
Professor Mondastri.
But he has a little nickname though, and we call him that. So his nickname is Mako, from Mako. Yeah. Because it is like, his name is Mondastri Korik Sudaryo, and then he took the Mo and Ko, so Professor Mako.
Professor Mako.
Yeah.
And he's the public health specialist.
He is actually like me. We started out as a public health doctors, and then he took masters and PhD in epidemiology. So he's from epidemiology department.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe that's why he didn't meet. He didn't have the opportunity to meet you and Dr. Wong the last time.
Yeah.
Because I think 2 years ago there were a lot of like epidemiological studies activities in our faculty.
I see.
But we get us he'll meet you now. Okay, shall we start? Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. How are you, students? Good morning. I hope you feel refreshed and recharged this Monday morning, and I hope you had a restful weekend. You had, hadn't you? I hope you have so you can feel refreshed today. And let's start this Monday morning very productively by listening to a guest lecture by our esteemed Professor Gita Apana. Please give a round of applause for Professor Gita Apana. So maybe some of you have seen Professor Gita already. So 2 years ago, she also came to Universitas Indonesia, to our faculty, also in this lecture hall to give a previous guest lecture. And we had we had the honor to have her here again today. So I would like to first say good morning and thank you to all of you who has been joining us from this lecture hall. And I would like to also say hi to audiences that are joining us online. I saw some of our professors are also here joining us online. I saw that Prof. Endang is here. Prof. Endang, Prof. Ratna Juwita. Hi, Prof. Prof. Endang, Professor Ratna Juwita. Prof. Pen is also here. Ibu Trianti, Ibu Trini. And do we have other lecturer here with us? Okay, but thank you. I hope that you have a very wonderful lecture today. So Professor Gita, I would like to mention maybe not all of her achievements, but some of her main achievements. So Professor Gita holds a PhD degree from Cambridge University, United Kingdom. She is currently a professor in nutrition and dietetics at IMU University, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And beside her national works, Prof. Gita also worked as a WHO expert, so international WHO expert in creating dietary guidelines. And Professor Gita is also a past president of Malaysia Association for the Study of Obesity. So we are very honored to have her, a very expert in her field, to share with us some of her expertise in the role of animal-based food products, animal-based food, food sourcing from animal, as a tool, as a medium to help us combating stunting. And this issue is very relevant in Indonesia because we know that stunting is still a very unresolved problem. We had stunting for decades now, although the trend is getting better, compared to decades ago. Back then, the stunting prevalence is about a third of the population. Yeah. Now we have the prevalence of stunting of about 19 point something percent. So around 1 every 5 children in Indonesia still having stunting. And Professor Gita lecture today will help us understand more about the role of animal-based source of protein and other food products to help us managing stunting in our population. Okay, so I hope that you had an enjoyable lecture. Please also write down your summaries because that is one of our assignment for today, right? Please do write an assignment, a summary of this morning lecture, and please also keep if you have questions from you, and don't hesitate, don't be shy to ask Professor Gita your questions at the end of this session. Okay. So without further ado, I would like to give the opportunity for Prof. Gita to share her lecture. Please, Prof.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima, for your very kind introduction. I'm so humble. I'm so honored to be here once again in front of your students and in this beautiful campus of UE. Always thrilled to be back here. Thank you, Dr. Fatima, for making this possible. Okay, students, how are you? Good morning, everyone. Selamat pagi. Okay, I think can I walk or do you prefer, can I walk? I always like to walk when I'm giving lectures to make sure the students are really listening and not dozing off. You know, it's Monday morning. Okay, students, I hope you don't mind that I walk. Okay, all right, so how are you all this morning? Fantastic. Oh, wow, semangat. Semangat, I need this kind of semangat. The rest? Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. Are you happy to see me here today on Monday morning? Okay, thank you. I'm so pleased to know that because not everybody very happy on Monday morning. It's blues. Okay, so I understand if you're not in perfect mood, but yeah, let's see how it goes along. This lecture. And if you have any question, you can ask me, or you can email me later. If you're shy, you can ask me later. No pressure. Okay. All right. So today I'm going to talk something that very close to my heart. I know I always been talking about obesity. The last year when I came here, I talked about obesity, but we also have to understand on the other extreme of malnutrition is talking about undernutrition. And you all know that malnutrition encompasses the undernutrition as well as the overnutrition, isn't it? Yeah. So I talk always on the overnutrition part, but I also do research and programs and advocacy works on undernutrition, especially on stunting. Tell you why. Because in Malaysia, it's even worse than here. Yeah. It's even worse in terms of the prevalence of stunting. In Malaysia, is even more worse than the one that you see in Indonesia. So all of you, Dr. Fatima and the department and all the pakar pemakanan gizi here in Indonesia are doing really well. Yeah, so public health in Indonesia is doing really well in terms of reducing the number of stunting in Indonesia. So we have to learn from you. So I hope this is a sharing session, not me telling you how to manage, but in fact, we have to learn from each other so that we make these two countries better in future. Yeah. Okay. So what do we know about animal source food and child stunting? We know it's very important, especially if the protein coming from animal sources of food, yeah, especially in a very young ages. So when I say animal sources, yeah, animal source food, it's not only meat, okay? What else is very important for very young children? Milk, dairy, yeah? Some more? Cheap protein, cheese, sagi, telur, eggs, yes, wonderful, yeah? Okay, so these are all the animal source food. When I say animal source food, it's not entirely meat all the time. Yeah, there's so many other animal source food that's really also high in protein that we can consider in this part of the world when resources is very limited. Yeah, okay, so next please. Yeah, so it's better for me to stand here. Okay. Sure, I understand. Yeah. Sorry, those on hybrid. Okay, so the outline for today's topic, I'll be giving you definition about stunting, but I'm sure you know by now, right? What is meant by stunting, and what is the prevalence of stunting in Indonesia as well as Malaysia, so that we can do some comparison and appreciate how things are in these two countries, and why do we need to care about stunting? Why is it a big issue? Why is it a very big public health issue that we have to really berganding bahu untuk for us to find a solution for this? Yeah. And what are the risk factors, especially the dietary risk factors of stunting? And I'm going to give some explanation about the animal source foods. And I'm going to conclude what can be done better in the coming years, even now and coming years, so that our generation, our future generations are better off. Yeah. Next, please. So stunting, what does it mean by stunting? So if you know, stunting is one part of the undernutrition. And we have several indicators for undernutrition. One of it is wasting. Wasting is just a definition for thinness. That means reflecting our low weight for height is a person. Yeah. And for weight for height. Yeah. For stunting, it is called as shortness. Yeah. What is shortness in bahasa? Pendek. Ya, pendek sama seperti bahasa Malaysia. And it's a linear growth deficits. Yeah, that means they're not growing appropriately for their age. Yeah, and underweight, very low body weight for age. Overweight, you know what is that? High body weight for age. We also have other indicators for undernutrition. For example, protein deficiency, malnutrition, and also micronutrient deficiencies. Often, children who are stunted may appear overweight, obese because of the height. Okay, they might be also micronutrient deficiencies. Yeah, they might also suffer from micronutrient deficiencies. Therefore, it's not only one issue that they're facing, they might face double to triple issues in one child. Yeah, and sometimes in one household, you might see one child being stunted, the other child being obese, as well as micronutrient deficient. Yeah, or another child will appear to be normal but also micronutrient deficient. Yeah, so triple, double burden of disease in a single household. Yeah, and this is all a major concerns. Okay, so so if you want to compare what stunting, if we were to compare the picture here with the normal looking child, stunted children are much shorter. Yeah, next please. So this is in bahasa. Yeah, stunting umur sama beda tinggi. That means same age, but you see a very drastic difference in the way how they look. For example, the way in terms of their height. Yeah. So in Indonesia, 1 dari 3 anak mengalami gangguan pertumbuhan kerana masalah kekurangan gizi. Stunting is most of the time is due to social. And when we say social, lifestyle is part of it. Yeah. Because they tidak mengambil makanan yang seimbang, yang balance untuk to cope with their growth. Yeah. Next, please. So this is what I mentioned just now. Distribution of homes in study by nutritional status in Indonesia. This is taken from Indonesia, published in 2021 by Lowe et al. In Lancet. They found that there are 39% of homes in Indonesia that has got double burden of children. Double burden means there's more than one children with malnutrition issues. Out of these 39%, they found the children in the same household to have overweight, at the same time being stunted, and also there are child who appear to be normal, but they might be micronutrient deficient because they share the same meal, which is not high in diet, not in the higher quality of diet. Yeah, but it's not tested. So this is just that they are overweight, they are either stunted, and either normal looking children. Yeah, so this is up to how many percent is that? 69%. Yeah, concerning, isn't it? Yeah, because they are losing out the best of their life. Yeah, they are the future leaders, you know, the future generation, future leaders. They're going to pimpin negara, right? Okay, next please. And it's a global problem, in fact. So it's not really a problem in Indonesia or in Malaysia. It's actually a global problem. We are seeing this in various parts of the world, especially those countries with low and middle income. Yeah. In Africa, this is a major issue. We're seeing more. If you see the orange shaded continent, African continent. If you don't know where is Africa, that is Africa. Yeah, the orange shaded with the gray shading there, and those are the countries with overweight, anemia, and stunting. Yeah. So when I say micronutrient deficient just now, most of them are anemic. Yeah. So this is the countries, and also in some parts of the Southeast Asia, especially our two countries. Yeah, in other countries as well. If you see the gray shading, is anemia and stunting. They don't have issues of overweight yet. Yeah. Okay, so it's a global problem. Yeah, it's not really focused in these two countries, but we should know that there are many countries that we can benchmark, and there are many countries that we can learn from as well. Next, please. And most significant declines are in Asia and Latin America and the Caribbean. Yeah, and this is a good news. That's why I put this cat smiling. Does the cat look like smiling or creepy? When I showed this picture to my children, they said, "Mommy, it looks very creepy though." Children these days. Yeah. I said, no, it looks cute. It looks like it's smiling though. So you agree with me? Okay. So the younger generation, no, terrible. Anyway, so we are seeing decline in the number of children in this region, and we are seeing a lot more rapid decline in some of the Asia and Latin America as well as the Caribbean. So it's good news. Next, please. The good news is also in the lower and middle income country like Indonesia, Malaysia. Yeah, Malaysia is in the upper middle income country, but you guys are doing a lot more better because you see the slope is going down very much drastically compared to Malaysia. It's a bit stagnant. Yeah, a bit slow, but very, very slow. It's not showing very drastic reduction. Yeah. Next, please. And why is this reductions and all these matters? Because we have to report back to the world bodies, for example, like UNICEF, WHO, UN, to show that some of the programs that they suggest to our countries is effective. Yeah, and we are responsible to some of the SDGs as well. And not only reporting wise, but it's also good for our children and the masa depan of these children in our countries. Yeah. But the not so good news is that it's slow. Yeah, the reduction is slow in some part of the country, and maybe as I discussed with some of the professionals in this field, they say it's slow. We can't do it very fast. Yeah, and if you don't do anything, there'll be 130 million stunted children in 2025, which is now, if current trends continue. So don't be surprised. It might be this much number of children was stunted now. Yeah, because it's very slow. Yeah. And over-time reductions may be explained by prevalence of children with obesity. Because these children remain stunted, when they put on weight, they will be either overweight or obese. Yeah? Next, please. And what about stunting in children? 19.8%? 1 in 2? No, is it 1 in 2? 1 in 2 is 50%. What is 20% as in 1 in 5? Oh, excellent. You all know the numbers. So 20%. Yeah. And the reduction is there. If I were to look at the graph, showing reduction from 2019 to 2024, from 27% in 2019 to 19.8% in 2024, this is remarkable. For me, this is very good. Yeah. So we must be learning from you guys actually. Yeah. And of course, this is different from one region to another region. With Bali has got the lowest number of stunted children. With Nusa Tenggara Timur has got the highest. Yeah, but on the average, Indonesia has got a stunting prevalence of 19.8%. Yeah, next please. And decreasing trend. And we predict that a lot of reports are saying that it's going to go down even more in future. It's good. Yeah. Okay, so all of us are responsible to this. You guys are doing very well. We have to learn from you. Yeah, how can we learn from each other? And of course, this is different between some places, as I mentioned, with some places are seeing the lowest level of prevalence. Some other places in Indonesia are seeing highest prevalence. There's a difference between the demographic in these places, and the different can be due to poverty percentage and many other social aspects as well. Yeah, because stunting is not as simple as budak tidak meninggi mengikut umur. Yeah, there are so many problem rooted in that issues. Yeah, what are the social problems? It could be poverty, it could be less education, it could be less income, it could be less awareness. The parents might be highly educated but no awareness. Yeah, what else? Maybe the kid is very picky in the way how they eat. Maybe the kid is eating but eating all the junks. So many social problems. Yeah, and these are different according to different poverty index. Yeah, next please. What about Malaysia? Malaysia, this is up to 2022 in our national health mobility survey. If you see the most top line is what we are indicating for stunting, and it's increasing. You guys are showing decreasing. Ours is increasing. Of course, after 2019, it reduced a bit from 21.8 to 21.2. Yeah. So the prevalence is higher compared to Indonesia. Yeah. But remember, Indonesia 19.8 percentage, as in the magnitude, could be more than Malaysia because of the differences in population. Yeah. You are one of the strongest nation because of the population. Yeah. So in terms of magnitude, so real numbers, maybe you have higher number of children who are stunted compared to Malaysia. Yeah. So it's still a concern. We shouldn't be very happy that you are seeing less number with other countries, but still a major concern, and therefore the importance of today's lecture. Yeah. Next. And we're seeing we are comparing our data with the world data. So orange line indicating world data, whereby we're seeing in general, every part of the world is showing declines. This is what I mentioned just now. But on the other hand, Malaysia is not declining, rather stagnant. And in fact, in the last few years, we're seeing increase. And when we compare to world, of course, we are lesser than world, but the trend is not very good. It's not very promising. Yeah. Next. And of course, with the lowest income, people are more affected. So you see the prevalence is higher among those who with income of less than 1,000 ringgit. Yeah. So 1,000 ringgit is around 4,000 rupiah. Yeah. So people who have income that much, they're the most to have children with stunted in their household. Yeah. 4,000 rupiah. Yeah. There are still Malaysia people with that much of income. Yeah. Okay. And there are many people in Malaysia who are under the poverty line. Yeah. Because when I speak to some people, they're very surprised. They say, oh, is there poverty in Malaysia? Of course. Yeah. There are a lot of people who are still very much under the poverty line. Yeah. Next. And some ethnic group having a most number of children with
Join. Kung ako na join, ako na di ini. Zoom.
Yeah. Some ethnic group seems to be having a higher number of stunted children, for example, who are coming from other Bumiputras, especially those in Sabah and Sarawak, and those in the other category. Yeah. You seems to be very shocked. Are you in one of their category? You seems to be very shocked. Are you in one of the category? No, no. Okay, good. Good to know that. Right? So, but you see the line. You see the dotted line over there. Do you notice the dotted line? there's a dotted line between 5 to 10%. That's the upper and middle income countries prevalence of 6.9. So in fact, all the ethnic groups are having children with stunting, which is above the upper middle income countries of 7%. So affecting every ethnic group actually. Yeah, of course, that's number is different depending on the ethnic group. Yeah. Next, please. So there are a few limitations to stunting, to measurement of stunting, of course. Significant deterioration within the normal range may also occur because we see children not necessarily stunted since they are born. It might happen, they might have grown, normally until certain age, they stop growing. Yeah, this is a linear deficits, right? So it's not necessarily from young, they might be from one certain age when they stop growing. Yeah, so this is a limitation we might overlook sometimes. And sometimes it may be because the imprecision of the measurement. Height is very easy to be measured, isn't it? But in a low resources settings, this is also a very hard to be done, especially in the rural areas. If you were to measure a kid on Rumah Panjang, you know, Rumah Panjang in Sabah and Sarawak especially, we have Rumah Panjang that's made from woods. We don't find a place that is very flat to do the measurement. Yeah, so imprecision may happen depending on the settings, right? So these are the things that we have to take into consideration. Sometimes when we read the report, we have to be very critical as a student, as a researcher, scientist, future scientist, you have to be very critical in a way, how did they assess this? How did they measure this? Did they do it appropriately? You have to be able to criticize and look at the details of the report. Yeah? Okay, I hope all of you are trained to be able to do so. Next. And why do you need to care about stunting? It's important. Yeah, as a professional in this field, as a future professional in this field, all of us be having responsibility to make sure that people healthy, especially children who are going to be in the next future, they should be healthy from very young ages. Yeah, stunting in early life is a pure marker of poor nutrition, and this is linked to adverse physical, cognitive, and economic development. And why do we have a very big word, economy, there? Because when children don't grow well, they are not very productive in later ages. And when they are not very productive in later ages, they contribute little to now to the country. Yeah, so country going to lose so much. Yeah, and most stunting manifests in the first 1,000 days of life. Of life, especially over ages of 6 to 24 months. Growth and development is rapid at this stage. And children, they grow like in a blink of an eye. Serious, believe me. When you have your own children later, you will see them grow super fast in a blink of an eye. Yeah, and therefore, we have to ensure that they grow very well in that very rapid development that they have. Yeah, and permanent damage might take place, and this is often irreversible because once they affect the brain, cognitive ability, learning difficulties might happen, and those are the things that cannot be reversed, even if you do a lot of intervention after that. Yeah, okay, so we have to need to care about something in the very young ages. Next, please. And these are the short and long-term consequences. Short-term, as I mentioned, brain development impact, lower IQ, weakened immune system. There seems to be sakit sentiasa. Yeah, the sentiasa demam. Yeah, always have because of the weakened immune system. Yeah. Next, the long-term lost productivity, not be able to cope in the school very well. They are the children who are most of the time exposed to bullyism. They also die prematurely. What is dying? What is premature death? What is premature death? Dying before their age. Dying very young. Yeah. What's the lifespan in Indonesia for women and men? 70. Not sure. Go and check. Yeah. That means premature death is dying before their age. Yeah. It's a big loss. Not only to the family, to the society, to the country. Yeah. Very, very big loss. And they also have greater risk of diabetes and cancer because of the obesity issues and so on. Next, please. Yeah, so this is another consequences. A child who are stunted remain in this cycle because when they are stunted, they become malnourished, especially if it's a girl, malnourished young girl, they become pregnant, malnourished mother, and they also give birth to a malnourished or underweight babies. And they remain in the cycle unless we do something to break the issues there. Yeah? Next, please. And the drivers of stunting, there's no single bullet. As I mentioned, it's very, very social problem. Yeah, most of the time, it's a complex interaction of household, environmental, socio-economic, and cultural influences. Yeah, it's very complex, and therefore we have to look at many angles to address this issue. Next. And UNICEF conceptual framework for undernutrition, they have come up with this figure. You probably have seen this. Have you seen this in your lecture notes? UNICEF, this is very famous framework. A lot of lecture notes, you should have this. Yeah, maybe soon later you probably will see this. This is a conceptual framework for undernutrition by UNICEF in 2013. The one that I highlighted in the box is one of the immediate causes for stunting, whereby inadequate dietary intake seems to be one of the major or strongest factor for stunting. So what is inadequate dietary intake? Not eating enough, not fulfilling the energy requirement, the protein requirement. What else? Not balanced. Yes. Yes. Anything else? So they eat but not balanced. They eat but not enough. They eat but it's not high in quality, diet quality. They eat junks because some children eat only junks, nothing else. Yeah. So these are maybe the factors. All right. Next, please. And having said about inadequate dietary intake, on top of that, there are many other reasons as well. Yeah, this is a very busy slide. I know some of you probably can't even see, but what I want to highlight is that the stunting is caused by complex interaction of many social issues. And the first row, if you see the red ones, the one that coming up with red, this is a very beautiful findings from 35 low and middle income countries. They have found that in all of these 35 low and middle income countries, number one, the one in red that is highlighted, number one, the major factor for stunting in many of these studies is mothers who are having short stature. This is if you go back to the vicious cycle just now, as I mentioned, a mother who is short, stunted, most likely to give birth to children who are also stunted. Yeah, short stature. So what is the meaning of short stature? Less than 100 and I think it's 145 centimeter. Yeah. Mothers with height less than 145, short stature, most likely to give birth to babies with underweight or underweight and most likely to become stunted. Yeah, so those are the findings from 35 countries, not my findings. Yeah, not me telling this. This is from science. And then if you see the lack of maternal education, wealth, as in poverty, low, poor dietary intake, we see that's in the 5. So all these factors, it's actually well-known reasons for stunting. Yeah, so if you address the dietary part, if you address the social part, and if you address the sanitation and hygiene part, yeah, sometimes it's because of the sanitation and hygiene. Children who always sick because of poor hygiene, poor sanitation, they are also tend to be stunted as well. Yeah, they tend to be shorter. Of course, not as bad as the stunted children, but they also remain short. Yeah. So these are the things that appear to be the major factors in 35 low and middle countries. Next, please. And diets of infants and young children are suboptimal everywhere. Not only in this part of the world, but in many other parts of the world. Yeah. So if you see children in, especially if they're coming from the lowest quintile of the wealth, there seems to be not having breastfed up to 2 years, having less number of minimum dietary diversity. What is dietary diversity? They should be able to have at least 5 food groups of food every day. Yeah. And what else? Acceptable diet, minimum acceptable diet. So if you see, this is a major concern for children who are coming from the lowest part of the wealth. That means people who are under the poverty line. Yeah. Not so much a problem with those coming from highest quintile. Yeah. And what's the difference between urban and rural? We are seeing urban doing slightly more worse, yeah, in terms of breastfeeding, in terms of, yeah, other than that, it's actually coming from the rural areas. We see the light orange is actually rural areas. So rural areas are not achieving the minimum acceptable diet, the minimum dietary diversity, yeah, or introduction to solid or semi-solid food later compared to urban children. Yeah, in some part of the world, children coming from rural part, they are doing much more worse than the urban children. Okay, next please. So dietary risk factors of stunting, as we already know by now, listening to these slides, listening to my talk, poor diet is definitely one of the reasons. Rapidly increasing nutrient no longer met by the breastfeeding, breast milk, poor feeding frequency, inadequately diversified diet. Diversification of diet is very important for children to achieve all the minerals and vitamins coming from different food groups. Yeah. And also for their gut microbiome health, gut health. If you are exposed to more than, if you are exposed to diversified diet, the gut microbiome is much more stronger. Yeah. And this is on top of other issues such as infection, lack of access to clean water, poor sanitation, poverty, etc., etc. Okay, so can we appreciate that diet is one of the major factors, it's the cornerstone of management? Students? Okay, in that case, let's move on to the next slide. So animal source food, yeah? Animal source food contains essential amino acids that cannot be synthesized within the body, can be only taken from the diet, yeah? And this has got a very important seminal role in programming growth during childhood. Yeah. And ASF also dense in micronutrient linked to growth, for example, calcium, iron, etc. Yeah. And this is strongly associated with growth in children. Yeah. And multiple constraints to multiple barriers, multiple challenges, constraints to the consumption of animal source food could be due to price, because animal source food are expensive compared to plant-based food in many parts of the world. Due to poverty, because they cannot afford it. Due to access, because they live in a rural part, they don't have much access to some of the animal source food. And maybe due to awareness. Yeah, they don't know that animal source food, some parents don't even know that animal source food is very important for the growth of their children. Yeah, lack of awareness. Okay, next. And as I mentioned, this is one of the most important part of our diet. Animal source food contain high values, high protein levels of biological value because of essential amino acid. And contrast to cereal, typically largest contribution to protein intake, yeah, are coming from the animal source food, yeah. And this variety of micronutrients in bioavailable form. What is the meaning of bioavailable? Bioavailability of micronutrient, of nutrient. That means when you consume this diet, your body is ready to absorb, digest in the readily bioavailable form. Yeah, it's the most beautiful. So your body don't have to work very hard. Okay, it's in the bioavailable form, so you can consume it, and the body can make use of the nutrients right away. So it's efficient for addressing multiple micronutrient deficiencies. For example, heme iron, important for anemia, yeah, and also the preformed vitamin A, and etc. etc. I'm just giving some examples, yeah. And also enhance uptake of less bioavailable micronutrients. For example, the non-heme iron, for example, coming from plant source food, significant given inhibitory effects in oxalate and phytates in diet. Yeah, this is especially coming from the plant. And it's got, animal source food has got high nutrient density. What is density? That means higher level. Yeah, concentrated higher level for some of the nutrients in the animal source food compared to plant-based food. Yeah, and benefit for young children and those with reduced dietary intake, small amounts can significantly increase the nutritional adequacy of diets based on staple crops. Yeah, so this is the beauty of animal source food. Of course, when you come to the adult years, during adulthood, now we are coming up with a lot of dietary guidelines that focuses on plant-based diet. Yeah, because during adulthood, plant-based diet seems to be very powerful, seems to be very, is better for the prevention of many diseases. But we are talking about the most sensitive years of children. And these sensitive years, because of the growth and development that takes place, these children need animal source food. Yeah, we're not talking about plant-based diet for these children. Even in Eat Lancet, even planetary diet, they all are excluding the sensitive years, because we all know these sensitive years of the children, they need animal source food, especially dairy. Yeah, okay. So if you have this question lingering in your mind, I'm answering it now. Yeah, next please. And this is coming from data. This is a real findings coming from 130,432 children coming from 49 countries. They recorded this data between 2006 to 2014, and they have defined stunting as less than -2 Z-score. And they also defined the animal source food in the study as in dairy, meat, eggs, and fish. Okay, and we're comparing many parts of the world, okay? And because we are in the south and central of Southeast Asia, we are looking at this, the one in the box. If you see the number of children consuming 3 animal source food, 3 different types of animal source food, as in dairy, meat, fish, dairy, meat, eggs, any 3 combination, is actually very much lesser. It's only 4.3%. So what are the children actually only eating one? The majority of children are only eating one animal source food, most likely dairy, which is 43.7%. The rest are not even eating that many. Yeah. So stunted children are only eating 37.7% of animal source food in their diet daily. Yeah. So it's lesser if you compare to other part of the region in the world. I mean, of course, we seems to be higher compared to other part of the region. But in terms of 3 animal source food, if you see children coming from Latin America, Caribbean, are doing a lot better than our region. Yeah, okay. And also the other categories as well. So we are eating less compared to other region. The other 2 regions, they are doing a lot more. I think they're doing a lot more worse than us, especially those who are coming Eastern and Southern America. Yeah, of course, the comparison, what are we comparing against is important. Yeah, if you want to be as good as the other region, there's no high region, there's no Europe here because it's no problem in their part of the world. There's no North America because it's not a problem in their region. Yeah. So what is our baseline? What is a comparator that we are using is very important. Yeah. So I'm just showing you what are the trend like in this part of the region. Next, please. And the same study also shows that children who are eating different food groups, especially the animal source food, seems to be lowest for fish, highest for dairy. Yeah. Okay, so children are still drinking dairy milk in this part of the region. Yeah, but lowest for fish. Yeah, meat and fish in between that. Yeah, so if you want to see what is the most available, what is the most consumed animal source food in this region is mostly the milk, the dairy. Next, please. And this is a study comparing Indonesia and Malaysia by Helda Kusura, I think it's Dr. Helda et al., published in 2022 in Frontier Nutrition. They compare, this is among what we call adults, and they see a comparison of person frequency counts of protein food groups based on 24-hour recall, yeah, conducted parallelly in Indonesia and Malaysia. For Indonesia, plant proteins were the most number of proteins coming from your diet. Yeah, so this can be as in from cereal, yeah, from rice, from beans. For Malaysia, for animal protein accounted only 35.4% of the total. Yeah, so your diet mostly the protein is coming actually from the plant. Yeah, lesser from the animal. This is in adults. So we are thinking, we are comparing this, we're going to further compare this with children soon. Yeah, next please. And why do people for Indonesia, older adults reported higher frequencies for both cereals and legumes, and higher education and occupation status were associated with lower consumption frequencies of cereal and legumes. So people who are highly educated in a better job, they have better awareness about the importance of protein. So they less consume the plant-based. They also have the animal-based. Maybe they can afford that. Maybe they have more awareness. Yeah. Maybe because they are highly educated. Yeah. And also associated with lower consumption frequency for cereals. And according to the wealth index in urban setting and due to modernization. Yeah. And there's a definition for modernization in this study. If you want to know what is modernization, you can refer to Dr. Helda's study. Yeah. Next. And this is to show the association between animal source food, consumption, and stunting. It's very beautiful findings. They see that dairy, eggs, and meat, all of this consumption of these food groups are negatively associated with stunting. That means people who consume more of these food groups are less likely to be stunted in these findings. Yeah. So good news is that we can see this kind of evidence that your diet, if it's comprised of dairy, comprised of eggs, comprised of meat or fish, they are less likely to be stunted because the findings is in the negative. Yeah. As well as with one animal source food, two animal source food, or three animal source food, we are also seeing inverse relationship. Yeah. So it's okay if the children, as long as they hit either one or two, if affordability is the issue, if access is the issue, if poverty is the issue, we can encourage them to at least eat one animal source food. Yeah? Okay? Even with one animal source food, we are seeing inverse relationship. Okay? So all animal source food types are associated with lower stunting among children and diversity in animal source food consumption to yield larger growth benefits. If they can have more diversity in animal source food, is better. But if affordability is an issue, poverty is an issue, then we can suggest to at least reach one. Yeah, and slowly increase the intake. Yeah, next. And again, this is also to show you same findings. This is from UNICEF, association between animal source food and stunting. We're seeing with more diversity in the diet, they're seeing less chances, yeah, of being stunted in children. Next. Physical stature and dairy products. The higher the consumption of dairy products, the lesser, the better the physical stature. Yeah, better height the children might have. And this is coming from many studies, even in Europe. Yeah, they compare male and female. They compare most likely effect is 0.04 centimeter per annum increase in their growth if they consume 245 ml of milk per day. Yeah, that finding is it's not significant, but if you see the pool findings, the diamond shape is showing positive. Yeah, that means consumption of consumption of dairy products is helpful in terms of the physical stature in children. Next, please. And we're having constraint, and we know this is a major issue. It's not about the evidence, it's not about the science. I think all of us know, I think we can convey this, we can translate this to our community, to our society. We can tell them that, come on, eat more animal source food. But will that be enough? Will that be enough to make them to move, to make the changes? It's not enough. I think we all know this is evidence science. We all know. We can tell this to our people. We can increase the awareness. But what about their practice? Yeah, and that's the issue. Because if they cannot afford, how can we push them? Yeah, all right. So barriers there, constraints are there, especially if you're coming from the South and Central Southeast Asia. For us, the constraint to animal source food is there. Yeah, so we are in somewhere in the middle over there because we're seeing the constraint is higher in the other countries, especially coming from Africa. For us in the middle, but we still have the issues with the constraint to certain types of the animal source food. Yeah, and what are the constraints? Next, please. Because poor people face a double economic burden. They are poor and animal source food are mostly expensive. Yeah. And why are the nutrient-rich foods so expensive? Why are eggs expensive? Why are meat expensive? Why is milk so expensive? These are mostly highly perishable, right? What I mean by perishable, you cannot keep them for a very long time. You need bigger refrigerator, sophisticated refrigerator. Those are very expensive equipments to keep them for a longer time. Yeah, and that how do we those expensive equipments are then translated into the price, and that's why it's becoming more expensive most of the time. Yeah, so difficult to trade long distance. One of the thing. Limited trade means relatively prices largely set by local productivity level. So it's local country, local government, and productivity is low in poor countries. Yeah, we can have the chicken in our own backyard. We can have eggs from this chicken in our own backyard. We can have cows in our own backyard. But if the family cannot afford, they most likely don't have any of that. Yeah, okay. Backyard poultry very widespread, but children don't eat that much of eggs. Studies coming from this Hedy et al. Yeah. And egg prices are lower when poultry is commercialized in the government in that country. Yeah, but if it's very much commercialized, of course, eggs also get very expensive. That's why eggs in some countries, for example, in Malaysia, I think in Indonesia as well, the price is very much controlled. Yeah, so everybody can afford. Yeah, but not the same scenario in many other parts of the world. Yeah. Next, please. So the constraints to animal source food consumption can be minimized if prices are halved, if you can double the urbanization, because we see some urbanized areas may be doing better, but also think about the poverty in the urban poor people. Yeah, the urban poor people are mostly affected, and that's why the number in Malaysia in terms of the stunting is higher. They are coming from the urban poor household. They're living in urbanized area, but the income is not enough to support the needs for the dietary intakes. And reduce gap between the lowest and the richest group, very hard, but government have to do something. This is very macro level. Yeah, increase the GDP. And if we were to have children who are stunted now, they are not going to increase the GDP because less productivity soon. Yeah, so we have to think about how to do this and improve access to clean water, improve sanitation, hygiene, yeah, all that, and better access to healthcare. Okay, and with that, I think that's my slide, the last one. Okay. Next. So we nutritionists and dietitians have long emphasized important properties of animal source food. And we have renewed interest in the protein quality now. And evidence shows that animal source consumption is low in Asia, and there's so many constraints to it: income, education, lack of knowledge. And we have to do this diversity among about the consumption. And we know animal source food associated with good growth, better growth, and therefore important dietary factor, especially during the sensitive periods. And they're very expensive depending on the area, unfortunately. So multiple constraints. We need multidisciplinary collaborations. And we're not only talking about Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, but Ministry of Agriculture to make sure eggs are affordable, meats are affordable, Ministry of Domestic, Ministry of Trade. So many ministries are involved. And these are not what we call Ministry of Health responsibility alone. We have to work in hand in hand with many other ministry, across many other ministry, whole of society, all of government approach are needed. Yeah. Okay, so with that, thank you so much. I'm happy to take any question if you have.
Okay, thank you so much, Kita. Please give a round of applause. That is a very insightful Monday morning lecture, Prof. Thank you so much for reminding the students that stunting is still a huge issue. I always remind my students here that although the prevalence of stunting is, well, we're getting there. The prevalence is, well, in trend of always reducing, but number-wise, yeah, because we are one of the most populous country in the world, we still have a lot of number of children who are stunting. And also, Prof. Gita mentioned about the UNICEF conceptual framework on malnutrition, and that diet is an immediate causes of stunting. But we can see everywhere in the world actually that the diet quality is still suboptimal. Yeah. And although animal source food is the best diet to manage stunting, it has high bioavailability of nutrients, but there is still a access problem. Yeah. So those in poverty or low socioeconomic household, they are still sometimes challenged in accessing the animal source foods, and that's why the number of consumption, especially dairy, meat, and fish, yeah, Prof, is still lower in Southeast Asia than in the other countries in region. Although, well, we're still a bit better in some region as well. Okay, so I heard that some of the students have class at 10. Yeah, so I will probably give only 3 to 5 questions. Opportunity for students. Do we have questions already? Okay, we have one. And then, wait a minute. We have one here from that side. Richard, Ray. Do you have one? Okay, Evan, yeah, I remember you are Evan. Okay, you also have one. Valeria. Okay, do we have, okay, Michelle, do you want to ask questions? You want to ask questions? Michelle, okay, and maybe Tifa or one of you from that side? Do you have questions? No? From that side? Phoebe, you have one. Okay, maybe because we have to, I'm so sorry, Prof. Gita, I just know that at 10, there will be another lecture. Can we squeeze all questions all together? So I will take note on the 6 questions, and maybe Prof. Gita, you can answer the six question like in full length. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Evan, Evan. Ray, right? Yeah, you go.
Hello, Dr. Gita. My name's Evan. My question is: there are people in the community who don't eat animal-based protein because of personal choice or because of personal belief, like vegetarian or vegan communities, or several people in religious groups that don't eat animal-based protein. How we as emerging nutritionists combat this problem? Thank you.
A good questions about the increasing trends of vegan diets in Indonesia, Prof. It is a new challenge in itself. Okay, are you okay if we move on to the questions first? Ray or Richard? No. Okay.
Hello, me, Dr. Gita, Prof. Gita. My name is Richard, and I really want to ask, but I don't know if this really fits into the topic. But for now, insects is a really good topic because uh, they say insects have a lot of protein. So I want to ask if uh, insect consumption uh, has an impact on lowering the stunting prevalence. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard. Indeed, Prof. So insects, as in grasshopper, or and so on and so forth, it is people are seeing a lot more into it as an alternative source of animal-based protein. So maybe you can also discuss that later. Phoebe, I think you're next. What is your question?
Hello, Prof. Gita. I'm Phoebe, and I would like to ask, is there any programs the Malaysian government have been doing to try to combat stunting in Malaysia, and why is the graph not looking good? Like, are the programs not going well, or are there any constraints that are making it not seeing the best results?
Yeah. Programs in Malaysia, yeah. Public health nutrition program in Malaysia, so we can learn from the experience in Malaysia. And then Michelle.
Thank you, Prof. Gita, for your amazing presentation. I'm Michelle Agnesasha, and I'm going to ask about, there's a case when some newborn is allergic to their mom's breast milk. And we all know that breast milk has a lot of good stuff in it. And I want to ask, what is the best solution for this case? Because there's no way a newborn going to eat straight animal source food. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So children who have problems digesting their own mother's breast milk, yeah? Okay. And I think we have one question from this side. Do we? Come on, don't be shy. Anybody? Aisha? Armel? You always have questions? No? Okay. Caroline, right? Faris? Okay. Okay, so any more questions? Okay, we have one. Oh, Valerie, I forgot. Sorry. Okay, and that concludes our questions, yeah, because we only have room for 5 questions.
Thank you, Prof. Gita, for the amazing presentation. I want to address something regarding the constraint. Sorry, my name is Valerie, and I want to ask something regarding the constraint of consuming animal source food. As I know, there are some children who are allergic to dairy products such as eggs, cheese, and milk, and also there are also children who are allergic to seafood. And also, I want to say that there are children who are allergic to peanuts as well. I know that it's not an animal source food, but it is really nutrient based. And I just want to ask, how should we help these children who are not by choice, but really their body cannot process eating animal source food? Maybe that's my question. Thank you so much.
So helping children with allergies still fulfilling their protein needs, yeah? Okay. So maybe can we go ahead from the first question about the challenges and the emerging vegan diets in our country. So
Yeah.
how do we keep people to still eating animal source foods?
Amazing questions from your students. Amazing, because this is like a postgraduate level questions that your students asking. So I'm glad because you really listen to my lecture very well then. Okay, so to answer the first question about the what happens to in some subgroup of population who are adhering to certain types of diet, for example, the vegan diet or vegetarian diet, what about the animal source food? Remember, vegetarian diet has been for many hundreds of years. People in some parts of the world doing the vegetarian diet for many, many years already. And this was not a problem. Stunting was not a really very big problem then, but it's a problem now. Why? We have to look at the detail of the diet they're consuming. They probably vegetarian, but at the same time consuming a lot of junks. So if you are taking real vegetarian food, that is balance, variety, because even plant-based food has got proteins in it. So if they are taking it in a balance, in a variety, diversification is there, they are doing a lot better. Yeah. So some vegetarian, they include milk in their diet. Yeah. And only some types of vegetarians who don't have milk in their diet. Yeah. So, but there are people, parents who are who are well known about the implications of not reaching the protein intake during the sensitive years. So during the sensitive years, they actually feed their children with milk, at least. Yeah. So these are the things that can be taught to the people who are taking vegetarian or practicing vegetarianism in their diet. As long as they fulfill the balance, as they take all in variety, there's a diversification of diet in their daily consumption. Even plant-based food should be able to give all the amino acids that need for the growth and development. Yeah. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, so diverse diet, yeah. And the key is diverse diet. The second question is from Richard regarding insects as an alternative source.
Yes, that's a very good question. However, we don't have much evidence. So as you probably know, Dr. Fatima mentioned that I'm part of this dietary guideline for WHO. We are coming up with evidence on animal source food, especially coming from insect. We actually dropped the insect part from our report because there's not much evidence. It's very, very new field, yeah, and there's not much study they have done on scientific evidence. It's limited, so I can't say much about it. But I know this is part of certain culture, yeah, and certain religions, certain culture, they do take insects as an alternative or as an additional protein source, yeah, but not scientifically studied that much. So to answer your question, scientific evidence is not there yet. Hopefully in real future, when we have a lot more data, we can answer your question. But lab-based meat, about lab-based meat is also a next future thing that we're talking about, alternative to protein. So even that, there's not much scientific evidence yet. So maybe if I come back here in the next 2 years, I probably have data to show you some findings.
Okay, so or maybe you can do it. You can do research for your bachelor's thesis or your postgraduate thesis on that field.
Yeah, why not?
To contribute in enriching the evidence, I think, yeah, Prof. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so question number 3 about public health nutrition program in Malaysia from Phoebe.
That's a very wonderful question. Thank you so much for asking. We do have programs in Malaysia, especially for children. If you found a children to be undernourished, having undernutrition indicator, it doesn't have to be stunting with other indicator of undernutrition. The parents or the household are given food basket every month. The food basket contains food for an entire month. So those are the food like flour, rice, sardines, eggs, noodles, all those type of foods. They're given to the family, especially for the children. It's meant for the children, yeah, of the family every month until the children goes to school. So if they found their children to be malnourished at 1 year old, they can get that food basket until the children goes to school at 7 years old. However, it is intended for the child. But what happens is that when they go to the family co-shares it. Yeah. Of course, if you have 5 children, you can't just simply feed just that one child. As a mother, you feed the all 5 children. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why we don't see much progress. Although supports are given, although assistance like this are given. Yeah. And another reason we are seeing is also because of the urban poor people. Urban poor. They're living in urban areas. A lot of people living di pinggir bandar, yeah, in urban, but they are under poverty line, yeah. So they cannot have the affordability to buy a high quality diet for the children, yeah, because of the urbanization. They have to pay more for the rent, the bills. They're taking more of their income compared to the food. And as well as exposure to food system where we are exposed to food like fast foods, we are exposed to processed food, and children likes this kind of food compared to those animal source food, the one that gives the good quality of diet. Yeah, so we are seeing all of this happening at the same time. That's why a lot of our programs don't work. But nevertheless, Malaysia, we have to look at this. We are looking. This is chaired by our Deputy Prime Minister. We are looking at ways on how to combat this in future. Yeah, hopefully we have better plannings, better programs, better prevention policies in future to prevent stunting of our children.
Okay, thank you. And I think that also happens in Indonesia as well. Some of our programs, we also do food distributions to families with stunting children, but it ended up not just the children, but also like the food is being consumed by the rest of the family. It will, of course, reducing the quantity of foods intended for the children. Itself,
yeah.
Okay, so I think the last 2 questions, it can be combined because it is both regarding allergy and intolerance. But Michelle's specific question is breast milk. So in infants below 6 months, how do we help them, those allergic with their mother's breast milk? And for Valerie, because we do actually experience a lot of people allergic with seafoods, peanuts, and other animal food.
Yeah, so that's a good question about breast milk just now. I think first thing we have to rule out about the hygiene and sanitation. Yeah, because I know breast milk is the best, but what about the other factors that can affect this issue? Yeah, hygiene, sanitation, access to water. If you can rule out all of that, if you still find the child has got allergy or the breast milk is not the best for the child, then there are many ways that we can overcome this, because there are many plant-based alternatives that we can consider for this child. Yeah, for example, plant-based beverages. Yeah, that can be considered for this child. Yeah, that could be one of the things that you can consider in future if you're giving dog. Yeah, or giving a intervention for this kind of. But there's very much. It's very isolated cases. We can see that. Yeah, the child who are allergic to mom's breast milk. Very isolated cases. We don't hear that as many as possible. But yes, I don't undermine that, and we can find way how to do this. Same goes to the question on the allergy on lactose intolerance or allergy for peanuts and so on. There are many plant-based alternatives that's readily available in the market that we can also offer to these kids. Yeah. So in Indonesia, you have tempeh, which is beautiful source of protein. Yeah. So if they are allergic to other sources of animal-based protein, these are the plant-based alternative that we can suggest to our population or to our people.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. So as future nutritionists, you guys have to be creative and looking out for alternatives for those with allergic reaction to animal source food. Yeah. Okay, Prof. Gita. Lastly, I think Professor Shafiq has comments and perspectives to close this guest lecture sessions from the Indonesian expert perspective. Are you still there, Prof?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. first, I would like to thank Professor Gita uh, for your lecture today. I think it is very important to again emphasize the importance of animal source food. And I think some of the students questions what I'm also have a concern. That is the cultural aspect. By cultural, I mean not only a traditional culture where food taboos are against the consumption of animal source food, as it happens in some parts of Indonesia, especially for pregnant mothers, but also for children as well. But by culture, I also mean the contemporary culture, which is against the consumption of animal source food, including animal protein, which we know that it is very important and indispensable to some extent, especially for some nutrients, which can only be found in animal food. Yeah. For example, the widespread belief about lactose intolerance and allergy is really hindered us to consume, especially dairy. And in Indonesia, dairy food consumption is much lower, even compared to Malaysia. Yeah, so we are the lowest in Asian countries. So I think it is very important for us to put back dairy foods on our menu. Yeah, because there is a widespread belief and again a modern or even postmodern belief that lactose intolerance is universal. But in fact, it is actually not that universal. Genetically, it is only affect a very small percentage of population. So I think this also to balance the situation where animal consumption, animal source food consumption is low compared to the plant-based diets. And I think we need to balance the we need to swing the balance towards the animal source food proportionately. So that's what's my insights after several years, many years of study and observations on the situation. So I think that is my 2 cents to this discussion. I thank you again, and hopefully we will meet you in person, so you don't need to answer this question. This is not a question per se, yeah, but more of a message based on my observation and research. And we need to give balanced information on this, and especially with dairy consumption, which is very low in Indonesia, and there is a certain modern belief which is not true. Yeah, so that is my opinion. I thank you so much, Prof. Gita, again for your lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Shafiq. That's a very good concern, a very good observation that you found. As you correctly mentioned, this is only lactose intolerance only affect a very minor percentage of people.
Yes.
Supposedly, that's why whenever people come to us, they say that the children are having lactose intolerance, cannot digest milk properly. First thing we'll ask them is to rule out many other factors, hygiene, for example, sanitation.
Yes.
They prepare the milk. How do they? What
Agree.
they use? And we have to rule out all that factors: water, sanitation, hygiene, preparation of types of. So we have to rule out all that. And if the child seems to be having still lactose intolerance, the next we have to consider is the plant-based beverages. But that's also an issue because mostly those plant-based beverages are expensive. And
Yeah.
if you cannot afford milk, what
Exactly.
about plant-based beverages, especially soy milk, yeah, or oat milk, or other types of milk, which is a lot more expensive because they're done. There's more processes to it. So these are the consideration we have to take into our practice whenever we are seeing patients.
Yeah.
So you're right, Prof. Shafiq.
Yes.
We have to find ways on how to increase the milk, especially with regards to these, sensitive years of development and growth.
That's true, especially with the specific content, the insulin-like growth hormone, growth factor, IGF-1, in milk could not be, dispensed by others source food.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Prof. Shafiq,
Thank
for
you. Thank you.
expert opinion from the Indonesian perspective. It is really important to mention that we do have some cultural perspective that should be considered and taking into account while recommending certain type of diets to our clients, as future nutritionists. Okay. And I think that concludes our guest lecture session today. I see some of you already leave for your 10 a.m. class. And thank you very much for those of you sticking in this lecture hall until the end of the guest lecture. I hope that this opens your week, energetically and have a lot more inspiration for your future work as nutritionist in Indonesia. Thank you very much for your attentions. We'll see you again in the next opportunity. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih ya. Makasih adik-adik. Silahkan meninggalkan ruangan. Atau mau foto dulu mungkin ya Prof ya. Let's take another quick photo group and then you guys can leave for your next class ya.